It worked. I'm
Yay.
shocked. I'm shocked. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds until Instagram catches up, and then we'll get started. Lovely. Well, hello again. Welcome. We're so glad that you could join us for this conversation today, all about supporting families in the NICU. As many of you may know, September is NICU Awareness Month, and our families have mentioned the experience of the NICU being overwhelming, emotional, full of unknowns. And we know that every family deserves support throughout that journey. So Annie Gunning, our child life specialist, is here today. As a certified child life specialist, she's going to help us better understand what role child life specialists can play in the NICU and how they can help families find comfort, connection, and coping strategies. And that goes for if a child life specialist is present or even not. There are other ways to help find that comfort and connection with your baby and your family as you're going through that experience. So thank you, Annie, for joining us and talking about this today.
Of course, always happy to be here. I'm glad we get to talk about this month.
Mm-hmm. So we always begin with, I'm showing recommended resources. I don't want to be showing that yet.
No.
That's at the end. I got excited.
Yeah.
I actually want to start by having you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and the role that you play at Hope for HIE.
Yes, of course. So I am Hope for HIE's child life specialist. I am also a certified grief counselor. But as far as being a child life specialist, the main role of child life specialist is to help children and families cope with stressful experiences. Typically that revolves around something with a medical diagnosis or hospitalization. But it's really, our job is really to be here to empower children and families, to advocate for their needs while also decreasing any kind of stress and anxiety. So trying to help make them understand the best that they can, their hospital experience or medical experience, so that it can turn out in the best way possible.
Wonderful. So the way this Q&A is going to be structured is we're going to kind of divide it into three parts. The first part is really if there's a child life specialist present in your hospital or in the NICU. And then the second part will be if child life is not present in the NICU, what your family can still do to feel that connection and support. And then what to do as you transition out of the NICU. For many families, that can also be a really exciting milestone, but also very scary too. So we'll begin with part number one, when child life is present in the NICU. Let's begin by asking what a child life specialist does or can do in the NICU and how they support families during that stressful time.
Yes, definitely. So not every NICU has child life specialist. It's becoming more and more common, but if you are lucky enough to be at one of those hospitals that has a child life specialist, the main goal is to focus on emotional and developmental needs of children and families in the NICU. So we support parents by explaining medical procedures, and not because we don't think you get it, but you're taking in a lot of information, you're under stress, and sometimes the language that is happening in the hospital is just difficult to understand. So we can kind of be the decoders and help parents understand that, or just repeat it again, because sometimes most times it needs to be repeated again for you to be able to take it all in. And we use just family-friendly language that you can understand. We also are there to help siblings understand what's happening and then give families coping tools to use while they are in this stressful situation. We like to partner, we are a part of the medical team. So we partner with the medical team to make sure families feel included, informed, and supported. So anything that we need to, we're kind of a bridge to, we spend a lot of time talking with parents and families about what is going on with them, their concerns, and then we can be the relay, or we can talk with the medical team and say, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but the family had concerns about XYZ. So we're a good go-between. And then a lot of times, I know in the NICU that I worked at, I did support groups for families, or I brought in community resources. So we had an organization come in once a month to talk about a specific topic, and all families were invited. So it just kind of gave that sense of community so parents could meet other parents. And we usually did it in a time where it was when they had shift change. So at our hospital during shift change, all the families had to leave for an hour. So that's usually when we did it. So your hospital might also have something like that, just for families to be able to learn stuff and then meet and talk.
Yeah, I would love to expand a little bit more on how child life specialists work with the medical team to help them feel a little bit more included? I know that you said that they are a bridge to communication
Mhm.
and everything. If you could give a couple more
Yeah.
examples, I know there are other ways that you wanted to mention too.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, yes, we can help with the bridge of communication between the family or the parents or the caregivers and the medical team. So that could mean helping parents prepare questions for rounds if families are included in rounds, advocating for any kind of wishes or baby's needs that the family feels is very important, and supporting them during those difficult conversations, or making sure they feel confident in the ways that they can care for their baby. So,
Mhm.
like touch times, reading to your baby, helping with routines. So, there's specific times of the day when there's care time for your child. And so, that's usually when I would come in as the child life specialist and do my like developmental play or comfort holds or containment holds or infant massage. So it's all done at one time during the day. So just kind of again relaying that with to the family, and hey, this is what's happening with the medical team. This is the time of the day that they do this. So maybe this would be a good time for you to come and participate in the child's care. Because I do think there's parents have often told me they feel like they can't do anything in the NICU, or there's very limited things they feel like they can do to participate. So helping them feel confident and supported that, hey, there are things that you can do during baby's care time or even during quiet time, like
Mhm.
the containment holds or reading a book, singing a song, just small little things that they can do. And then informing the medical team about, the family is coming today at this time, and this is what they want to participate in, so that everybody's on the same page.
Nice.
Because there's a lot of moving parts in a NICU. There's lots of people in there.
Oh, yes. And I think, when you enter the NICU, I think there's a lot of pressure on parents too, where they feel like there's 100% of focus needs to go to baby's care, medical care. And or there are limited options or limited opportunities depending on, the fragility of that baby and their medical condition,
Yeah.
of how to bond or create memories with them.
Hmm.
So I know that that's a big part of it, and I know that you have some strategies you wanted to share for that memory making, for that baby and their family.
Yes, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Like there's some times that like it's not a good day for anything to happen with that baby except for what the nursing staff or medical team
Mhm.
has to do. And other than that, it's like they need to rest.
Yeah,
But this is your baby and this is still exciting, and you want to, build this bond and this
yeah.
relationship and still create those memories. So we can help, and we have helped make family keepsakes. So celebrating any kind of milestones or achievements like monthly birthdays. So just with a sign and their name, or what is your theme in your nursery at home? Or if you didn't have that yet, but what are you thinking you were going to do? You wanted to do zoo animals, then we're going to put everything in zoo animals. So it kind of matches. And then they still have those keepsakes like they would for home, but it's in the hospital. So
Mhm.
getting off the vent, taking a first drink of formula, any of those really important things that the baby has done, like we want to mark those because we would
Yeah.
anyway. So we do help mark those special occasions and create some kind of memento or acknowledgement for the baby. There's also like footprints, handprints. I know, like especially during holiday times, we always did something special with the baby's handprints or footprints to make for the parents. Again, just kind of acknowledging those special days. Holiday photos. Some NICUs would have. I mean, it's probably a little bit different now, like post COVID. I think a lot of things have changed,
Yeah.
but like we used to have Santa come in, and so they'd still get a picture with Santa at Christmas time. He didn't hold anybody, but he would peek over and just look down, and it was just like the sweetest picture. So you can see, like, you can still do things like that to make it
Mhm.
special, even though maybe it wasn't what you had originally envisioned. And then
Right.
the other things that you want to like capture and make sure that the parents are having are like the skin to skin time, or just that bonding time of learning containment holds. So containment
Mm.
holds are, maybe we can do something with this sometime, but just
Mhm.
it's a part of, I did a lot of infant massage. It's just like placing your hand on two parts, like the head and the bottom, skin to skin, and you're just holding. So it's not like you're massaging. Some babies are ready for that and some aren't, but just doing those little things for that skin to skin and that contact is really important and can be
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. And I know that siblings, for those family that this is applicable for, siblings can often feel confused or scared or not involved. And parents' focus is on the baby in the NICU, but they want to know what's going on, but it's hard to explain. And I know that you have a lot of things that you can strategies you can give to parents to kind of help them feel involved, and then understand what's going on in a age or a stage appropriate way for them.
Yes, absolutely. And that is one of the things as a child life special that we do all over the hospitals. We include siblings, so the non-patient, because when someone is in the hospital, it affects the whole
The whole
family.
family.
And you've been talking about this baby that's coming home, and so when the baby has to stay in the hospital, that's really confusing. And then it might even make the sibling feel left out, like you're leaving and going to the hospital to see the baby. And so that just it creates that sense of feeling left out. So as child life specialists, when we're working with siblings, we use books, we use medical play, developmentally appropriate and simple language so that they understand what is happening in the hospital or with their sibling. We use real pictures from the NICU as well to prepare for visits. So even walking through the NICU, like this is the check-in desk, this is the hand washing station. So if they are going to be coming to the NICU for a visit, you're preparing them of all the things, because when you walk into a NICU, it's overwhelming. It's a lot. There's a lot of babies, there's
Hmm.
machines, there's people. So we just prepare them for that visit and what that's going to look like. And educating them about all the different things they're going to see, because
Hmm.
again, it can be overwhelming. So just incorporating the siblings in any way that we can, and then also creating activities for them so they can still feel connected to their sibling. So think giving the parents ideas of things they can do at home with the sibling, maybe doing art and making pictures. Like I used to love to see sibling pictures hung up all over like the outside of the crib or the isolette.
Yeah.
Asking, you can also have the siblings help like pick clothes out or blankets or books or stuffed animals, anything that they want to pick out for the sibling to bring to the hospital would be
Yeah.
helpful. Or recording a message, just record a message on your phone and then you can play it for the baby so the baby can hear, or you can tell them you played it for the baby so they can still talk to the baby.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I love all those ways. I feel like in a previous Q&A we've done together, you may have mentioned that a lot of hospitals, not everyone, but a lot of hospitals do have like a NICU tour, maybe, or like videos that maybe you could watch in advance too, just to kind of get a sense of where a baby is and if they are visiting, if that's allowed, like to kind of
Yeah,
prepare them, like you said, for that sensory overload,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
imagine
Yeah,
it would
because
be.
it's like the NICU I was in, like both of them were very large. So like you
Yeah.
walked in, you go this way, you could go this way, but either way, it was just lots of cribs and isolettes
Hmm.
and everything. So, and yes, you can definitely look whatever hospital you're at, you can look online and see if they have a NICU tour, or you could just like go on YouTube and do like NICU video
Yeah.
and or NICU sibling visit. And I think there's a
Hmm.
lot of hospitals. I'll look into that, and if
Cool.
if I find one, we'll add it to our resources at the end.
Yeah.
But we also have pictures, our support spot app that we always talk about. There's pictures in there of specific things you would see in the NICU as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's probably that's I think a resource that I added at the end too. It usually is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we can
Wonderful.
always use that too. But yes,
We are now going to transition to, as you said, not every hospital, not every NICU has a child life specialist, but that doesn't mean that there can't be moments for meaning making and strategies that simple everyday strategies that parents can use that a child life specialist would recommend to kind of ease the experience, I guess, is the best way
yeah,
I can think of to say
yeah.
it. So what are some things that parents can do on their own to comfort and bond with their baby? Things that maybe, again, with the child life specialist, not necessarily present.
Sure. And I should have mentioned too, like if you do have the child life specialist there in the hospital, like some
Hmm.
hospitals have sibling support groups or sibling group times, like I
Hmm.
did. So siblings could come in and we would kind of talk about all of this stuff as a group. And then I could show them, like I even brought in like an isolette one time, and showed them everything so they knew what was going to happen. So if you do have the child life specialist there and your child is coming to visit, I would definitely recommend reaching out to them so they can get all the appropriate things and really prepare them the best way. But if there isn't one there, there's still, I feel like, lots you can do to help them feel included and just to, make sure that they understand what's happening. Because I think a lot of times I've heard a lot of siblings say that when parents are leaving, they just don't know what they're doing there, right? It's just they imagine this place and they really don't understand it. So again, you could have them make cards and record messages, that same kind of thing. Have them help pack the hospital bag for the baby. All those little things really just help them feel like they're a part of this, right? And the parents are doing this with them. And then share pictures of the isolette or the area that the baby's in, whether it's a room or just an area, like, oh, this is under their bed. This is where we keep their clothes, or here's the picture that you hung up, and take a picture of those things. And then I also like to have or encourage parents to do, like, you do a video or take pictures of yourself as you're going through checking in at the nurse's station, washing your hands. This is the hallway I walk down. Obviously, you can't get anybody else in the picture. And then, so you can just have them walking or take pictures of parts of the NICU that nobody, like nobody is in, but maybe ask a nurse, hey, can you be in this picture for me? So you're just kind of giving them that idea of what their parent is doing and where the baby is. And then it just helps them it helps them understand and be able to process what is happening.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I did have like a little activity idea that parents could do that I think is super cute. So if you have like a big piece of paper and you have the child like stretch out their arms and you trace their arms and their hands stretched out, and then you cut it out and that's like a hug. And then you can put it on top of like the isolette or over the crib, and then take a picture and say, this is your, this is the hug that you gave them. So it's just kind of a paper hug, but it can still have meaning.
That's really cute. And I know that there are other things that you wanted to mention for parent bonding too, to comfort and bond with their baby. Because I know you talked about siblings, but is there anything, even simple, everyday, small tasks that parents can do to kind of feel that connection?
Yes, definitely. So I think for parents and thinking about like what would be most helpful for them, bringing those items from home, like a small blanket, some family photos, a playlist of calming music, like anything like that you could really incorporate into your space in the NICU. And comfort routines. So maybe on each visit, you just kind of come up with your routine of, you're going to read a book, you're going to say the same little sweet thing to your baby, because they know your voice, they know your touch, they know your smell. So you could even bring something of yours and talk to the nurse about where it could be in the crib, if that's a possibility, with your smell on it. So that's something that it depended on. Obviously, every baby was different. So it depended on what the baby needed in the NICU and what equipment they had around them. But that was just another way for them to kind of have that bond with the parent. And it can be like, smell is a really strong sense when they're that young. And then I think sometimes too, just, I don't know if we can kind of go into like routines and just helping,
for sure,
helping the parents too. But I always would tell parents to just maybe bring a notebook. And I mean, everybody has phones now. Because I feel like when I was in the NICU, like phones were allowed and then they weren't allowed. But like just having somewhere where you can jot down like the questions or notes, whatever the baby was doing that day, or just things you want to ask the medical care team. Because like most people, when the doctor leaves the room, you're like, oh, then you think of all the things to ask, or you wake up during the night and think of the things to ask. So kind of having something nearby where you can write those things down. And then I think it's important just to kind of, I know a lot of our NICU families would become friends and they would talk to one another. I think it's important though that you don't focus on comparing, and you're just really trying to form that other NICU family bond. So I think you can share, you can listen, you can learn, but don't compare is always really important.
That's hard to do, I would imagine.
Extremely hard because
Hmm.
everybody does that, right? You always
Yeah.
compare what's going on. But I think it also does give other families hope when they see another baby that has made progress,
Hmm.
and the family was like, oh, this, you're in the same place I was 2 months ago or a month
Yeah.
ago or 2 weeks ago, and now we're going home. So while
Right.
you might feel that disappointment that that's not you, I think it also gives families hope that,
Hmm.
okay, we're going to get there too. Like you kind of
Yeah.
needed that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
with that same kind of along those same lines is if you have a nurse in the NICU that you really um, bond with or connect with, or you just feel really, you just get that gut feeling about. Some NICUs have primary nurses. So in my NICU, we had primary nurses, and they would be assigned anytime they were on shift. They were assigned to that baby if that was their
Mm.
primary. I don't know that every NICU does that, but if you can always ask, you're like, oh my gosh,
Okay.
this nurse made me feel so comfortable and gave me great updates. So I'm going to see if she'll be my primary or he'll be my
Yeah.
primary.
Yeah.
So just an idea.
And I think along those lines too, just parents and the concept of self-care and taking care of your own emotional health as a parent in the NICU, especially when it feels overwhelming and especially when you're giving so much of yourself, so much of your physical and mental energy
Mhm.
to your baby. If you could talk about the importance of that and then maybe give some ideas of what that may look like in a NICU setting, that would be amazing.
Yes. And I am not a huge fan of the word self-care because I feel like everybody, we've overused that so much.
It
So I
is,
feel like,
it's oversaturated. It's
right?
used everywhere.
And
I
so
know,
you
I know.
people hear the word and they're just like, who has time for self-care? Right. And
Hmm.
I get it. So, but you have to take care of yourself. Not only are you like under all of the stress, but you also just had a baby or your partner just had a
Hmm.
baby. And so you're having all these different emotions. So really it's the whole like you got to fill your cup on or put your oxygen mask
Yeah.
on first before you can help. And it is true. It's really hard to do, but you can do tiny things like just take
Hmm.
a break and walk downstairs and get a cup of coffee or accept help
Hmm.
from family and friends. Because I feel like most people, when I talk to a lot of my families, like if somebody needed your help, you would help them, right?
Yeah.
So you're the families that are reaching out to you, they want to help you. And if you need a help making a list of things they can help you with, ask your child life specialist. We will come up with a list and
Uh-huh.
appoint somebody to share that with them. But it is really important because you do need help with a lot of things, or just
Yeah.
connecting with other support groups like our Hope for HIE community. And then the simple things of deep breathing or journaling or reading or a short walk. And this doesn't have to be a 30-minute thing. This could be 5 minutes. And I
Yeah.
think, again, sorry, I think again on our Support Spot app, we have specific things for parents, like calming music, or it's from like a music therapist. So there are things on there just for parents. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll highlight that too.
And oh yes, I know we have a whole section at the
I
end
know.
for
Like I got to
some
remember all the things we
resources.
got to add.
I know. I know. For many, a milestone is transitioning from the NICU to home. And as I mentioned before, that is really exciting. I mean, that feels like the light at the end of the tunnel for so many families. But then I think I've heard it said time and time again, but when you kind of enter that tunnel, then it starts to get really scary because you go from full-time help and
Yep.
monitoring to now you feel like you're doing it on your own. And
Yeah.
that's a big deal. I think for any family being discharged from, whether you've had a NICU stay or not, that's like, you're like, wait, you shouldn't I have taken a test?
Just let me
Like,
take this
shouldn't
baby home.
yeah, like really your only question was, do I have a car seat? That there surely it should be more in depth than that. But from a child life specialist perspective, what are some ways that parents can I guess let's go back to siblings. I know that that's kind of been the
Mhm.
trend that we've been to. How can parents either prepare themselves or even like the siblings of their child who's coming home for that baby's return from the NICU?
Yes, and I think you can start like a few days, You never really, like in the NICU, we would always joke, we never wanted to like say that they were going home because then they would do
Yeah.
something and they'd
It
have
would,
like Brady and then they wouldn't they'd have to wait another, 2
yeah,
days.
get pushed back.
So yeah.
Mhm.
But I think for siblings, like it really is important to start to prepare them. Like you could do like a countdown, like the little rings, like the paper chains,
Oh,
or like
cute.
a calendar to like mark down, not like how many days that they've been there or how many days till they come home, just something so that they have a visual
Yeah.
can be helpful. And then talking to them about the things that the baby's going to need, like baby's going to need lots of rest, baby's going to be sleeping a lot, or we're going to let the baby
Mhm.
sleep, or what kind of equipment are they coming home with? Because if they come home with oxygen, let's talk about this is the tube that gives them extra air just to help them breathe. It's not scary, but we need to make sure that the baby has that in their mouth. And that's not something we can touch. What can we touch? We can touch their hands or we can touch their feet, but we can't touch their tubing. So just kind
Mhm.
of talking through those things. And if there's going to be therapies, any kind of like PT, OT speech, talking about the simple language, there's an extra person that's going to help us care for the baby, and they're going to come visit us once a week to do exercises for the baby. And you can
Mhm.
get your doll and you can do it with the baby. So just having them be included as part of that, because some little siblings might think of this as they're getting all this extra attention and time.
Right, right,
And
right.
then giving them the big sibling jobs, like the things that they can do, instead of focusing
Yeah.
on like, you can't do this, you can't do this, but what can they do? And then
Mhm.
creating that brief time, that individual time just for the sibling, the 15 minutes that you're just one-on-one with them without the distraction can be really meaningful and make a big impact.
Mhm. I know that, not to put you on the spot, Annie, because I know it's not one of our pre-planned questions, but I know that you had said that you can, so good luck. But I know that you had said that child health specialists can help families prepare for rounds. I know lots of families, it's maybe not a global thing, but I think an ideal situation would be to have some type of like discharge meeting with like medical care team before they go home. I know that some families have the privilege to do that. Is that
Mhm.
something that you would also be able to help prep a family for too? Um,
Yeah, definitely. I feel like anything really to help bridge that gap and make sure the
yeah.
family, because our focus really is on helping decrease the stress of the family and
Mhm.
help them cope. So if meeting with the family to say, hey, this is the day we're going to meet, or I can be there with you,
Mhm.
to maybe remind you of some questions to ask or just kind of reiterate some things, like
Mhm.
definitely can be a part of that. There are a lot of like, there's usually a social worker that's like a discharge planner, at least at my hospital there was, or
Yeah.
one of the nurses was a discharge planner. So they are really good at like including everything. But absolutely, if you just feel like you need an extra person there
Yeah.
for like support and for advocacy,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Wonderful. And I know for lots of families, this may be relevant to them when you're discharged from the NICU, but your child has to be readmitted to the hospital,
Mhm.
to the pediatric floor or PICU. What can
Yeah.
families do from a child life perspective to kind of smooth that transition for them, or for siblings, or I guess really the whole family?
Yeah, one thing that we did at our hospital, and I know I keep like referring back to what I used to do, but we used to do tours of the pediatric floor and the PICU for families. Kids
Hmm.
that had like a lot of medical needs or anticipated, readmission at some point. They even knew like at some point they'd be coming back, because parents, like if their baby's been in the NICU for so long, and the NICU's very much a specific way and things are done, at certain times. So then you go to the peds floor, the PICU, and it is, parents were like, what is happening here? Like I've talked with parents. So I think a tour sometimes can be helpful, just so you kind of know where things are and what the floor is going to be like, what the pediatric ICU is going to be like, because it's all very different. It's not bad, but it's different. And if you know that ahead of time, that can be helpful. And then the
Yeah.
same things you did in the NICU, like bring those familiar comfort items, create your routines. You can bring photos, share your preferences and care, things that you do at home that work, things that worked in the NICU. Like all of those things are really helpful for staff. And you can post like an all about me, which is just like things that I like, things that are hard,
Hmm.
and include coping plans. Like I like the mom, or the dad sits or holds the baby during this type of procedure, or just different things that help the staff so that they can care for your baby the way that it needs to happen. So putting
Yeah.
that kind of stuff up, and then always ask the child life team for toys or where the playroom is, if they have high chairs or bouncy seats or bumbo seats, like all of that stuff, sound machines, like we have a lot of that stuff if you have like a pediatric unit. So reach out to them and ask them if they have mats and all that kind of stuff that you might need help with.
Wonderful. I know we've alluded to it many times throughout this, but it's time for the recommended resources portion of this Q&A. Anything that you would recommend to families to utilize to help them throughout the NICU experience? And go.
The Support Spot app I've mentioned like 5 times, but there are several things on there that have a NICU, like NICU specific care and things you can do to, and some of it I've already said, some of it might be a little bit different, to promote bonding and how to just navigate the hospital stay. There's parent guides in there. There's an ages and stages to talk about different developmental levels during a hospitalization, like 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, like goes all through developmental stages of things you can do in the hospital. And then I also mentioned the part for the parents that is like the coping support for parents, or the self-care for parents is actually really good on there. So we will have information on the takeaways, I guess, that you do for the Support Spot app. And then there's several books. There's an organization called Wordsworth Repeating, and she has a lot of books about the NICU, your baby being in the NICU, what the family needs to know about the NICU, and I love her books. And she's Laura Camerona is a child life specialist she has a lot of other books, but she has some great NICU books. And then I just had a few other ones listed on there too that we'll put in the takeaways. So
wonderful. I know you'd also mentioned Child Life on Call podcast has like 15 or so NICU.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm like, where did I put that? I did. Yes.
I saw it somewhere. I thought it's in
I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's on there. Sorry. Yes, I did. I looked it up on there. So, and some of them might be repost, but yes. And again, it's just listening to other parents' stories. There's not any great, I feel like, information really. It's just, you get that validation, you hear those other parent stories.
Yeah.
And I love that podcasts kind of can create a community that's, you don't really have to engage in. You can just listen when you listen.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much. And I know we'll kind of compile a list of things that we referenced throughout our Q&A. I know we have previous Q&As, like how to prepare for an unexpected hospitalization that may be relevant to some people after they're having to be readmitted. We'll make sure we link all of those resources on our key takeaway blog, which will be posted very shortly. But in the meantime, please go to hie.support. It's our comprehensive support network for families. You'll have access to Annie, our child life specialist, and grief counselor as well. Our social worker, and even our peer support mentor programs, one-on-one and on-call, among many other support resources that we've gathered, both in and outside of our community. So if you need that one-on-one tailored to support, just head there and reach out to Annie, and she can do that for your family. But thanks again for joining us, and we will be back next month with another iteration of our Child Life Q&A. But if there's any topic that's pressing that you want answers for or want to explore a little bit more deeply, please email me or put it in the comments, and we will be sure to explore that and turn it into a session for you. But we appreciate you all coming, and Annie, thanks again for being here.
Yes, thank you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.